So it's time to take this building down now, and as I discussed in the last part, that means drilling all the peg holes as I go. Also in the last part I said I would mention the way that I number the logs. So here goes. So the way I was taught that you assign the end of each log with a letter, always working clockwise. And this makes sense with most buildings. For instance, even a simple building, if you add a doorway, this allows you to number the logs so you're never going to make any mistakes. Now, as the building gets more complicated, with the addition of interior walls, for example, then the numbering system is obviously going to get more complicated, but the main point is there should be an underlying logic, and you should make a paper map showing you where all the logs go. Now, having said that, in our case we're dealing with a really simple building, so we can keep the numbering system really as simple as possible. So I'm only going to number one end of each log going clockwise and leave the other end unmarked. And then naturally the first log on wall A will be numbered A1, which will be followed by A2, A3, A4, A5, etc., etc. And with the numbering system established, I then go ahead and print all those numbers and laminate them before cutting them down and stapling them onto the ends of the logs. So let's talk about drilling peg holes, and obviously this would apply whether you are building a building in its final position, in which case you're doing peg holes as you go, or like me, you're doing all the peg holes in one go as you take down the building ready to move it. There are a few things that I think is important to touch on. Okay, so we're going to be pegging this building, drilling the peg holes. And here we introduce a new tool. It's the log drill, and it is without reservation the most dangerous tool that I use, which may sound strange because I use chainsaws. I've never had an accident with the chainsaw. I've had several accidents with the log drill. I've actually broken my wrist with the log drill. My wrists are now different shapes. This one's curved over, that one's straight. That was the log drill's fault. Oh, it's my fault, but with the log drill. I've also been thrown off a building by the log drill, about 3.5 meters, because I accidentally engaged the button that makes the drill like turn continually, whether you've got your finger on the button or not, on the trigger or not. Now the problem with the log drill is friction, because you have to drive this drill bit through one log and then through another log to about half or 3/4 of the way through, and that builds up a hell of a lot of friction. So it's not just a case of drill the hole, take the drill out, and that's it. As the friction builds, once you feel the friction building up, you stop. You have to stop. I have a torque control on this so that when the torque gets too much, it will just cut off, which is great. Then you turn the drill in the other direction because there is a screw on the end of this. So you turn the drill in the other direction to get the screw out, and then again reverse the direction and pull up to clear as much as possible of the wood chips, etc., out of the hole to reduce the friction. And I usually lift it up and down a few times to try and wear away at the edges of the hole to reduce that friction, and then go down into the log underneath. The problem is that as you go through the first log, when you break through the bottom of that and you go into the second log, there's a little bit of space. And what happens, because you've got your finger on the trigger, when it drops down, automatically your finger pushes more on the trigger and the speed of the drill increases, and that's really dangerous. That's why you need the speed control on the drill so that it doesn't speed up too much. And you'll see this in the video, I'm sure, several times. The top log will actually lift up, and if you're standing on that log, that's bad stuff. That's not good. So be very careful with the log drill. Like I said, it is the most dangerous tool that I use. But if you do it slowly and carefully, then you should be okay. So one point I'll make, as I'm drilling the holes, I'm also going to mark on the, I'll do it all on the inside of this building, doesn't really matter either way. I'm making a mark on the outside of the log, and that's important at the rebuilding stage, because you don't want, for instance, this one is here. When I do this one, I have to avoid that place, so I'll do it over here and I'll mark on here. And when you're building, that becomes very important, so you can see which holes refer to which logs. That'll become very obvious once we get to rebuilding stage. So let's get this building drilled and taken down. So that load is getting a bit full. So I brought another trailer, a smaller trailer in. I'm going to move some of the smaller loads onto that one so we can just have the long logs on that log trailer. So I've got down to the last 2 layers, and what I'm going to do now is mark these logs, the base layer logs, with a laser. Just put a couple of marks on each log, so that when I'm on site and I get to this stage again, I can make sure that all the levels are right. I can put wedges underneath if I need to. And on site, I will be building up to this level, 2 layers all the way around, before I even check the laser, which might sound strange, but once you get the first 2 layers on, the notches are such that they find their own place, and you know pretty much your lines this way are right, and then it's just setting up the level. So I'll draw those lines from the laser now on the base layer of logs. Okay, and go back to drilling.